Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for this File and Serve demonstration. My name is Tiffany Fullwood. I'm an analyst with the North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts. I am joined today by my fellow File and Serve team members, Savani here, Matt, our legal counsel, our legal expert, Amy. Also with us today, a portal guru, Marjorie, and of course our manager Tina in the back. Once again, I want to thank you all for joining us. Hope today that we can shed some light on the File and Serve system, hopefully get some of your questions answered. My intentions are to do a brief overview of the system, and along the way, if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and ask those if it's on point to what I'm talking about. Otherwise, if you'll hold your questions till the very end, we'll try to make sure if there's an outstanding issue that any of you have been having, we can see what we can do about getting that resolved. Yes, ma'am. I believe it's the public Wi-Fi here. That's what I'm on is public. Certainly. All right, so I've got us pulled up on our nccourts.gov, our eCourts hub. This is a page I'd recommend each of you bookmarking, as this has a wealth of information. You can come here and see the link for I am a member of the bar. What might be more of use today and more on topic for what we'll be discussing today would be the e-filing training materials, along with those FAQs for attorneys. You'll see that clicking the link for training materials brings you right down to our e-filing page of our eCourts hub, and here you'll find information relative to File and Serve. All of these along the right side of the screen are all hyperlinks. Here you will find job aids along with a training video. And so if any of your colleagues are unable to join us today, or if today we move at a pace that's maybe just a little too quick for you, you can always come back, select that filer training video. The same material that I'm going to cover today is covered there in that training video. Of note, you'll find the eCourt name indexing standards. I know that we're in week 4 now since our launch of Go Live, and so you all have been making filings over the last few weeks. But do visit this site in order to take a look at some of those issues that you might have about how should I be entering a party name versus how should I be looking for a business name. You'll find those standards there at that link. Another notable link is our county code link for Odyssey. So as you all know, since we've launched File and Serve and Odyssey, our the configuration for our file numbers has now changed. We now have a 2-digit year, then you have your E, SP, SPC, whatever you are filing, followed by 6 digits dash your county code number. So here, that's going to be 420. But if you needed to check other counties, perhaps you're filing into another pilot county like Wake, Johnston, or Lee, you could come here and check those county code numbers as well. In addition to the resources that AOC has provided for you, there are some links to our Tyler Technology training videos. Tyler Technologies is the vendor who has brought you all of these wonderful products that y'all are just so excited to use each day. Additionally, you'll find more information here about hardware and software required for e-filing. Right from this page, we are able to select the link to go to e-filing. That's going to take us to our production environment. That's the link that you all have registered and are using. Today, I'm going to be demoing in a test region. No need to make note of the URL that's at the top of the screen. Again, this is a test environment. Looks very similar to what you all are operating in now. By now, all of you should have registered for your File and Serve accounts, but just a quick overview. There are 2 types of accounts. A user may register for either a firm account or for an individual account. An individual account would be for a pro se individual, an out-of-state attorney, perhaps a landlord. They may all register for individual accounts. You all would be registering, of course, for your firm accounts. To register, simply select the registration button, complete the required user information, firm information, agree to the terms and conditions, and register. The user will then be prompted with an email to complete the rest of their registration. At this time, has anyone have any? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. So you're talking about our agreements, which is something a little bit different, but we'll get to that shortly. But the spoiler alert, no ma'am. You'll have to click those 3 agreements each and every time. And we're going to talk about those 10 documents because when you're doing those 10 documents, it should just be 3 clicks. And I'm hoping I can show you how today. When you're doing all of but yes, if you are doing different envelopes, different filings, like for different cases, yes, ma'am, then you're absolutely right. Then there will be 30 clicks in that case. I hear you. I hear you. Yes, ma'am. They want the agreement. So right now I was talking about terms and conditions for registration, but the ask is, what if we put the 3 agreements at the end of a filing submission into the terms and agreement and have a blanket?
Yeah, I would like to have. So this terms and conditions, but this terms and conditions is setting up a firm account. So this terms and conditions that you're agreeing to is when you're setting up a firm account. The firm admin who's creating this account is agreeing to it. They cannot agree on behalf of everyone in the firm. Everyone has to agree. Right? So this is the firm account. What you're agreeing to when you're filing an envelope is you're agreeing to the terms and conditions of the filing. So there is a difference. This is a group of account. That's an individual filing. Yes, ma'am. Contract. We hear you. But we do take it with we do develop all these in consultation with Odyssey, our Office of General Counsel as well. And the direction has been like it's a deliberate fact of reviewing all of that and agreeing to that. And the truth is, you don't read it. Yes.
Well, I don't know. Are you? And the other thing is that, especially for North Carolina attorneys, what notice across the whole country, when you move to this kind of system, the redaction becomes more significant that you have to do in terms of thinking it through. However, the laws for redaction so I would take a look at that and make sure you're redacted. And that's what you're agreeing to. Have done those things for that particular file. Well, that's continuous order does not have anything in it. Good. Yeah, good. But when you're in court and you don't it's really a lot to get it over there and everything that. We'll look at the number.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Sure.
I had to in order to be able to do my work. Before there was corrections to the agreement, and I think I saw something about some correspondence about some tweaking of the agreement, but I would like to know what agreement is now in effect for the overall usage, and I don't know that, and how does it affect those of us who accepted terms which were not appropriate terms?
That's right.
Because POC.
Communication regarding that and taking
Yeah, I'll go ahead. That was Tyler.
Why does it make a difference? I mean, honestly, we gotta do it no matter what. You can say we gotta go to China to defend the case and we still gotta do it, so why do you care?
why do we care?
I mean, we've gotta do it no matter us that we have to agree that if there's a mistake in this system that AOC is promulgated, we've got to go to Texas and be. That has been changed. But, I mean, we had to agree to it on the front end.
So
Big change.
we changed all that, so there's a great deal of time spent negotiating what North Carolina's terms and conditions, and then when Tyler was rolling this out, they posted state of Louisiana's terms and conditions. And as you can see, all the states have different ones that are on Tyler. We do not have the indemnification about that removed. We also have agreement that if any kind of lawsuit happens here in North Carolina, county, and mediation, there's some sort of level of mediation. So basically, North Carolina was in a better position probably than all the other states because we could look at everything else everyone else had agreed to and try to come up with the least best thing that we could that Tyler would agree to. Because, you know, as you join your Apple phone, you're agreeing to a lot of different things you have to do. And as you know, process through your computer to do your client work, you also agree to different things as well. So we're in a position where, yes, to use the product, you have to agree to it, right? But we apologize that Tyler put up the wrong state. And that OGC, the Office of General Counsel, is working through the details on how OGC notified. But if you do in the terms and conditions, it does say that posting online serves as notice. Is that what they told you for me?
I mean, we did this beforehand, and I've never had to go back and reapprove the terms and conditions.
And what Rebecca was asking is some of us that are from differently, with the Louisiana terms were probably there, and the government agency I work for, they made it clear we couldn't and didn't have authority to agree to those. Are those kind of, is that being automatically saying that we're agreeing to what's currently there?
I don't think it says whether I am bound by those or not, and I should not be bound by that. That's number one. I need to know that I've never been wonderful about trying to get that.
She's gotten that information.
Okay, but I need something, I mean, just somebody saying it, I would like something from AOC saying, here's the deal. You can agree that you can accept the applicable terms and conditions. That's number one. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to make this point. I don't have to agree to, I don't have to use my Apple phone to earn my living, to represent my client. I don't have to agree to any of those things, but we're in a position, if we don't do this, we cannot practice law.
I understand.
And that is a huge difference. So I think making the analogy about the Apple phone requires you to accept those conditions.
That's a fair point. Call last night. Mr. Brown, he's the new OGC. He said if you look at the terms and conditions that it has from Louisiana, that notifications,
I think we can pray for a fix.
and that brings it, one agreement is not the 45 times that you accept. Okay, so I know there's a difference. Yeah, there's terms and conditions. No, there's submission. And every state has them, so, and I don't know if you've ever filed with federal court, I always have to. And then I work in, I work in, but you also know how to do it. So, but I think the feedback we can provide of the city that they would like notification remain by that feedback. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's change and have. But, yeah. Right, and all I can say is turned over to legal, if that's what we have to follow.
Yeah, again, I don't see why we have to check it if it's by statute and we're bound by it anyway. It sounds ridiculous, but it don't make any, for us, by the law, that makes no difference. We have no choice. You should make our statute and say that we're the updated conditions, you know.
Who accepted the prior terms and conditions are not on those.
I would keep doing this, that's what a lot of the feedback, probably a lot of you, pretty much are, yeah, you say, and to, powers that be at AOC, and someone that, you know, really good job doing that. I would absolutely send in your feedback, all of this, we discuss, pretty adamantly, pretty passionately, so for now, I'm probably going to address your concerns about how to navigate daily life on behalf of those, and so let me turn it to
All right. So now that you have received your email to register, you are able to sign in. Again, most of you already have accounts, but I do want to briefly highlight that first individual who's created the firm account has the ability to have access to firm management. This firm management is relegated just for firm administrators, and so the firm administrator may add additional users by selecting the firm user under firm management. And then they will select the plus sign, and there they're able to add any additional users at all times in File and Serve. The pencil icon will denote your ability to edit, while the trash can will denote the ability to delete. Additionally, that firm manager can also add attorneys to the firm, again, entering the first, last name, and bar number. They may also add payment accounts. So within File and Serve, a payment account is required. Again, most of you are up and running already. The only payment account type I do want to highlight here is waiver account, if you all don't already have one. A waiver account is the account that you will use to make any filings that don't have filing fees associated with them. And so, for example, once we get to the payment page, I'm sure you all have seen that you're required to enter a payment type. Well, if you have a filing there's no cost associated, so for example, that's going to be an affidavit perhaps, that has no fee associated with it, you could select waiver account. Additionally, your waiver account is also used for if you are filing affidavits of indigency. And so if any of you perhaps work within civil and you're filing a petition of indigency, that waiver account is how you're going to make that submission to the court and have no fees associated with it. At that time, the clerk's going to review and make a determination on whether or not fees or whether or not your petition for indigency is accepted or denied. If accepted, of course, there will be no fee. If denied, however, you'll be contacted by the clerk and you'll have 24 hours to let the clerk know whether or not you want to move forward with your filing, in which case the clerk will assess the fees, or if you decide to withdraw your filing, in which case a clerk would return your filing to you at your request. And then, of course, a firm administrator can update any address or telephone number changes here. Sticking on the left side of our panel here, I want to highlight another feature for you before we begin to actually demo a filing, and that's Filings Report. Your Filings Reports allow you to run a report for either yourself or for all those in your office. Essentially, I've selected my filing, so I just want to see what I filed within my firm. I've selected all location, all statuses, but you will notice there is a filter here where you're able to go in and be specific about your county or specific about the type of statuses. So if you are wanting to run a report to say, either for yourself or for someone within your office. I'd like to see all the filings that have been accepted by the clerk. I'd like to see all the filings that have been canceled or rejected. Here's where you can make those filters and apply them. You'll select Download Report, and that's going to open up an Excel spreadsheet for you. In just a moment. There we go. So this is a super useful tool, great for keeping track of your filings or your firm. And you'll see this keeps track of all of the envelope numbers that you had, your case numbers, descriptions. It shows you the status of those filings, the fees associated with those filings, and of course the attorney that made that filing within your firm. Great for client reconciliation. I'm going to hit the home to go back to our dashboard, and we're going to begin with a filing. Within our start filing, you have two options. Those are to start a new case or to file into a subsequent case when filing into an existing. For now, let's begin with the new filing. You'll select your court location, your case category. I'll encourage you to take your time when making those case information selections. This is what drives your envelope and what cues these your filings will go into. So just making sure that you do a quick double check to make certain that you've selected the appropriate location, category, and case type. Step 2 will be to add your parties. Many of our filing codes have required parties, so you'll note that I made a selection for an estate. We'll see that red asterisk denoting a required information. Obviously required for an estate would be a decedent, makes sense. And again, that red asterisk, which is going to denote required information. You'll want to complete this information fully and accurately to the best of your information. So if I had an address, I would enter that information here. In the interest of time, I'm going to move forward. And then remembering that you'll need to come back and add all the parties of your case. And so if there is a beneficiary, and again, if I had the information in front of me, I'd want to be sure to include all of it, such as the address as well. And we could keep going here, adding more parties like an applicant or an executor or a guardian ad litem or any other relevant party. Tell you who is not a party: an attorney. We've had a lot of errored filings, and they come from where attorneys have added themselves as parties, and so we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to look for the party that you represent. So perhaps it's the executor, this has beneficiary, but if you'll note within that information, right at the bottom it says attorney information, and it's there where where you all would select your own name under attorney information. And now, once I save, you'll be able to see that Perry Mason is listed as the lead attorney. Yes, ma'am.
I've asked a lot of questions.
Please.
I missed the initial part of that because I was looking at the top of stuff downloading reports. So there is an attorney item.
And we are working to have it removed. Yep, and it's going to make it error each time because the system knows that you shouldn't be a party. And yes, ma'am. So that will be removed, and hopefully that sheds some light on that, on how to add yourself as an attorney. You'll find your client, whether it's an executor, the plaintiff, and you'll add yourself as lead attorney to their profile, not creating yourself as a separate party. Let's move forward to our filings. For our filings, very intuitively, our only selection we can make here, plus sign, add filing. This is going to take us to our filings tab, and here I'm going to go ahead and make a selection for a filing code to show you all what I fear you've been missing, which is after I've selected my filing code, right up here at the top, we've got additional services. This is the tab where you will find additional services offered by File and Serve. So you'll see within here, this is how you can request copies. This is perhaps if we were making an estate filing. And I should tell you, your additional services that you see will be based upon the filing code you selected. And so if I had selected a complaint, you wouldn't expect to see information about an estate's caveat there. So again, if you are looking for an additional service and you don't see it, it is perhaps not associated with the filing code you selected. So in my case, I am going to go ahead and say I'd like exemplified copies while I'm making my filing. For my quantity, I'm going to ask for 1, and you'll see that it automatically fills that in. If there are any filers here who make either final accounts, inventories, annuals, we consider those variable fee codes. So anytime you are making a filing and it does not have a set fee, it's very likely you're going to find that code in additional services. And this, yes, sir.
If I'm ordering a certified copy of an estate from Johnston County, is it a set fee from now on, or do I have to somehow figure out how many pages there are that I'm getting? Because I know we have to pay by the page.
So you will come right here to this additional services tab, and you will select certified copies. Is that what you're asking for, sir?
I'm getting a certified copy. I've got an estate file that's been filed in Johnston County, and I've got to get it to Harnett County.
You'll make.
Am I no longer having to pay? I think they're telling you pay by the page.
Well, no, this is requesting that once you make this new filing for us to send that back to you, what you want to send back. So,
Right. But I still got another number of pages that I'll be able to pay.
if you're asking for a certified copy from an already existing case,
I'm filing into the case. Instead of a new filing, it's still the same thing in it. You would go into it, you would go through the system, and you would still get to that point eventually, right?
Yes, you'll get right to this page where I am. You would select certified copies. If there were specific pages that you want, I'm going to show you how you can add that under your estate action cover sheet. Yes, ma'am.
One suggestion I have, or a request, it's one for not, you go to the initial page where you're picking what you're doing. If somehow you could group those by type, by category, have an estates category, a special proceedings category, a civil category, criminal, because.
Are you talking about the filing code, or are you?
Because it's quite a task to have to scroll through everything.
Well, you don't have to scroll. You can always type right in. So let's say I wanted to file a year's allowance. As I begin to type the word years, you'll see that application for year's allowance pops right up for me. So you don't have to scroll. You can type right into that search engine. Type the word annual or type the word account. There we go. And I can tell you that where you will find that payment for that annual account that you want to do, that's under additional services where you're able to type in the amount. You'd select the box here.
Excellent suggestions, which I worked with over the weekend. I still could not do that. How do we do that? If we just need to pay something, how do we do that in this system? Or can there be
So this is
other box?
there is not and currently a configured other box. The system is designed to allow you to pay for the filing that you are making at that time. And so if you have outstanding fees with the clerk's office still, there's not a way to assess those within within this, not without duplicating your filing. because you would have to come back in and select application for probate, which of course you wouldn't want to do.
One other question that picks up on the first question. Bill, if Will wants, let's say he doesn't want to certify, Will wants to certify a copy of something that's already in existence, not making a new copy. I don't see how there's a way to get that using this system.
You would go to file into an existing case with your file number. You would select your estate actions cover sheet. You would upload that cover sheet just as you do today where you've made your request for your copies. And you would once again go to that additional services tab and add the amount. And
It actually covers you. On these old estates, you wouldn't know who the parties are, the name on the state action cover sheet.
well, you'd have to know the name of the file to request copies, right?
You know the name and you would know the estate.
And you would take the file number and that's what you would use to file. And after I do our initial filing, I'll show you how to do a subsequent filing, which is what you're describing now. You're requesting copies from an existing case. So not a subsequent filing, but you're working with an existing case.
It's not his case.
That's okay.
As well, I need additional letters, testamentary. How do I've been able to figure that out.
So for your additional letters, you would go, it would be the same way as your copies, which is your estate action cover sheet, e-filing for your copies, e-filing, and then of course in your cover sheet, again, noting to the clerk the exact copies that you're seeking.
Even if it's our estate, representing the estate, you have to file a cover sheet.
And that may be a local practice. If your elected clerk is comfortable with you all emailing to make that request, I mean, you certainly can, but if you're asking me how to perform that within File and Serve, this is the way you perform that action in File and Serve.
There's a limitation with e-filing, sir.
See how you get a certified copy of the estate file of that system. But you don't know the number of pages that you're asking.
In a lot of cases, you would have to form for.
Potentially, yes.
It weren't, you know, like, so you still have to keep your head like we could go in and send a check.
Well, that's kind of really, I think some of us are trying so hard to do it in a way that makes it easy for you guys to comply with the new system.
I just want to make sure we've got enough time for our portal tab. I want to tell you guys about the communication, or portal team. I want to tell you about the communications tab. Yet another tab that might be overlooked here. Your communications tab is going to allow you to send either courtesy copies or preliminary copies, and you do so by entering email addresses here into the fields, into the boxes. A courtesy copy will send the person you designate a copy of the file stamped document once accepted by the court. So this would be useful perhaps for co-counsel or for your clients to know that a filing's been accepted, while your preliminary copies will send to the email address you designate to send you a copy once the documents are filed with the court. So both handy and useful functions. Back on our filings, right here, right at the top, under our filing information, after selecting your filing code, you can also enter your client reference number, any filing description you have, or any comments you may have to the court. Scrolling down to the bottom where we're able to then upload our documents. And remembering to, yes sir?
Reference number. I'll make a correct reference.
Yes. It is, and you might have missed our reports that I did at the very beginning, which is, that's all right, I can show you later. It's a report that will generate very useful for client reconciliation and a good way to keep track of things within your office. Yes, sir? After uploading your document, you would then select your document type. You see there are a list of options here. More than likely, your filing will be public, but of course available to you are confidential, public not portal, special proceedings confidential, supporting documents for audit purposes, and of course we will not be using that last one. There's going to be some more guidance for you all coming out soon about what type of document security you should be selecting. Do know that as part of the clerk's review, they are able to change and modify your document security. And so if you have made a selection that needs to be adjusted, that will happen. So rest easy that if something needs to be marked public or confidential, the clerk will have the final say in that document security type. Once added, we'll select Save, and you'll see that you're able to come right back to the Filings tab and add additional documents if necessary. So this is where, when we were talking earlier about the multiple, if we're all within one filing, we can come right back in by selecting that and adding another filing type, performing that same function all over again, selecting our document, applying our document security, and saving. So you may do that up to 36.7 megabytes. It's huge. I think someone earlier said it's the equivalent of more than an entire ream of paper. So huge, huge file size. Shouldn't have a problem. Yes, ma'am. I thought that would be helpful. Good. All right, moving forward to our services tab, which I'm going to move right past. I'm making an initial filing. There is no e-service available for initial filings. That's reserved for subsequent filings, so we don't need to stop there. We'll move forward to our fees tab. And here is where we will select our payment type. Party responsible for fees, the attorney. And if you wish to see a breakdown of your fees prior to submitting a filing, just simply select the Calculate Fees button there. And once confirming that our fees are correct, select our Summary tab. And here are those very popular agreements. The first, that it's not a false filing. Next, that we've taken care of any PII. And the last, that we understand we must comply with the North Carolina statute in reference to PII. Yes, sir?
I'm not sure. Two good ones. They did a report earlier, and one of the filings was a brand new state, and it listed, as a filing code for the cover sheet, application code, all that stuff. Great. But the one of those filing codes, part 120 for each of those, that initial file.
You should be able to scroll down to the bottom to see your grand total. So if there's one that you've got concern about and you've got an envelope number, I'd be happy to take a look at it for you. It should only, if you are filing, opening one estate, there would be one charge of $120. Yes, sir.
Well, it has the case that had about 5 different filing codes with it, just for different documents. It had 120 on each of those filing codes. So it was just a good question.
If you've got concern that there's been a case where there's an overcharge, if you've got that with you, we'll take a look. So once scrolling our page, noting again that pencil icon, denoting the ability to edit, making certain that everything looks correct, then we'll hit our submit. And this submits our filing to the court and of course generates for us an envelope number. more than a moment. Here we go. And so now our envelope has been submitted. You're probably already receiving, anytime you make a submission to the clerk's office through File and Serve, you receive an email confirming that your envelope has been successfully submitted. It tells you your envelope number and gives you an overview of the details. Similarly, if you were to have your envelope, if there was a technical issue, you would receive an email that says your filing was not successfully submitted to the court, and that envelope would give you the details of that error and instructions on a hyperlink there on contacting Tyler Technologies to resolve your technical issue. You also receive an email whenever a filing is accepted or returned. And I won't bore you with those unless anyone needs to see them. I think we're well beyond that at this point. We'll return now to our dashboard. And as you can see within our filing history, we have our most recent submission, our envelope number, our filing history noting for us on the dashboard the most recent 3, but a selection of view filing history will show us our entire filing history. And I'd like to show you some interesting things here. So we see here the very first up is our most recently submitted with a filing status of submitted. If you are wondering where in the process your filing is, you can come into your very own filing history and you're able to see the status. If that filing has been accepted, if it's been canceled, if it was rejected, and there we go, and if it's under review. So a good place to come to check on your filings. If your filing has a status of submitted, which means the clerk has not begun the review process, you do have the ability to cancel that filing yourself. So as opposed to calling the clerk and asking them to return a filing that maybe you realize has an error or an issue, you instead can come into your filing history, note the filing status of submitted, scroll over to the X where you're able to cancel your filing by selecting the X and then confirming. Additionally, from your filing history within our actions, you also have the ability, not for that one because it hasn't been submitted to the court, but for this one that has a status of accepted and now a case number, I'm able to go to actions and file into the case right from your filing history screen. It's going to take us back to our dashboard. If you are working and need to take a break for court, leave for lunch, or you're just otherwise done with your workday, you can close out and save. File and Serve will save the envelope that you are working on in your drafts. Similar to filing history, you'll see your most recent 3 on the dashboard, and if you have additional drafts by selecting the View My Drafts. Scrolling down to our case search box here, you're able to search cases. So let's say you are making a subsequent filing, you could do that one of 2 ways. You could of course come to Start Filing, where you select File into Existing Case, or you could select Search Cases. This will bring you, in both cases, to the Search for Case screen, where you'll select the location. If you have the party name, you can use the radio buttons to search by party name. I'm going to search by case number. And select search. This brings me a return of my case. Under my actions, I'm going to file into case. And you'll note because I'm making a subsequent filing, I don't need to enter case information already taken care of as it's existing. Under my parties tabs, my parties are already listed, but I do have the ability here, and this will be good for some of your older cases that you didn't make that initial filing on. So let's say you are filing, you're now representing a case you did previously represent. You can come here and under applicant, this is where you'll add yourself now. You'd edit that party and you'd come right in, name yourself as attorney, select save, not adding yourself as a party, but simply finding your, yes, sir?
That's the surplus funds that Tyler and I are involved in, and there is an attorney that's named in the parties. Is there a way that I could edit that thing so I could put that attorney's email address in so when we do the file and serve, they get the copies?
You would not be able to edit the existing parties, like this attorney is still part of the case,
Correct.
and you're wanting to e-serve him?
Just to copies of the response.
And do you know if this attorney has agreed to e-filing?
In the file.
He's e-filed in the file? Okay. If that is the case, then when we get to the service tab, I'll show you there how to e-serve.
But if they do not, if it's an older case and they filed in it prior to, you can't put their email address in.
That's right. Right. So we've updated our party and added ourselves as an attorney. Moving, yes, ma'am? So you're saying that you made a subsequent filing, saved them as an attorney, as lead attorney like this, like I just demonstrated? And was it accepted by the court? I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's important. Was that envelope accepted by the court? Then that would be why. So any changes that you make won't show in the system until accepted by a clerk. But after it's been accepted by the clerk, so that means the clerk has, during their review process, confirmed all the parties and selected accept, that's what's gonna push it into Odyssey, and then next time you make a filing, all the parties, will be there for your selection. You're welcome. Yes, sir?
Well, what about your client switching attorneys, right? Don't they start with one, they change to another? You go in here, clerks switch the lead attorney to the system after they've done the motion to withdrawal? Or is there some point where you, as a attorney, let the system get your name as a lead?
So, you mean like filing a notice of appearance in a case? That would take care of it.
The other day where maybe they do an extension for the time to file in the county, and I asked her if she had an attorney, she's like, no, it's supposed to get that to you. So, I went and filed for you as well, there was actually an attorney that had been there prior, and of course, they had to file it out, no big deal, but, I recommend that, I didn't do it as a parent, but it, anyway, that got me on there. For this system, I had to file, of course, I put up, and should have had to put your attorney on there, because that was an issue there. So, if you file that continuous, it needs to be filed in a short period. Or if you, well, never mind, I'll withdraw the question, we'll do that. I'll just file notice of appearance.
I was just gonna say, that'll take care of it. Yes, sir. All right. So, perhaps.
Like the legal, it can't be changed right now, they just create some.
Your lead attorney can't be.
In a situation, but I understand that when someone's listed as a lead attorney, and then it gets switched to a new firm, that there is some difficulty saying this person's no longer the lead attorney. I've heard that from some attorneys and from the
If you've got some examples, I'd like to take a look. I've been in wait the last 3 weeks, and I've been deleting lead attorneys left and right, so. Okay.
We have a question for Russell.
Okay. Okay. Are there, okay, are you guys are in Odyssey? Okay, and please, oh, I'm so sorry. So I am a file and serve girly here. I did not realize you were speaking because I was like, that's foreign to me. I'm like, we delete lead attorneys 10 times a day, but that's in file and serve. Okay, there we go. Gotcha. All right. There are two separate applications. So there is Odyssey, and then file and serve is separate and apart from Odyssey, which is separate and apart from Portal. So though they're all connected, of course, these are different applications. Oh.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here. So file and serve is how you file, right? That is all it does. Files your documents. Okay? And then sometimes it can serve on something. Odyssey, for the integrated case management system, attorneys don't have access. That is like clerk's records. Okay, that is where they record everything. That's where they work. Okay, so that replacement sort of on the files that are behind the desk. And then Portal is importable into Odyssey, so you're looking at some of the case information that clerks have put into Odyssey. Okay, so that's the three systems, and I think there is a lot of, I'm understanding that still needs to happen around what they do. And again, Portal doesn't show you everything and show you certain public
Then someone can go in and change the legal identification.
That's what I'm saying. And file and serve.
But that doesn't help.
But that doesn't.
Change in the Odyssey for management system. Okay.
Change in, and does that affect whether that attorney who is deleted has noticed submissions? That's, I guess I don't know.
And that's going to be a lot. I'm not know until y'all learn how to do it. Professions have been in the Odyssey. I can tell you how to case file system.
They could add anything.
Yeah, so in finance, so you can indicate your legal, right? Day one, when you're filing today, you may indicate attorney one, but maybe a month from now, the attorney is changed, and you would indicate the other attorney a month from now. So that depends. Sorry? Well, every filing is at a point of time. So it is per filing. So at this point of time, when you're filing, you indicate the lead attorney for that participant or that party. So the clerks do the review process, and when they accept it, goes to Odyssey. And what I'm hearing, and again, we are mostly file and serve, not Odyssey, is there is something in Odyssey that is preventing lead attorneys from being switched.
It's just gonna error out on us, we're not gonna be able to set the time.
Okay, yeah, that is probably because of the attorney connection and how attorneys are being added as, Tiffany was saying, you indicate as a lead attorney to a party as it's represented here. And I need to see, but if you're adding as a party yourself, that sort of errors it up. So that causes an error for the clerks.
Not put ourselves down.
Yeah, you're not supposed to, but
Way, it just sounds like it's a problem that has to be addressed.
So while making that subsequent filing, if, for example, there were any additional parties since the last submission, say, for example, in this case, perhaps a guardian ad litem, you could come here and add more parties. Let's move forward to our filings tab. We're going to select add filing. And again, repeating the same process, finding our filing code, entering any client reference number, filing description or comments to the court, selecting the document, adding the document security. But now you'll notice at the top under filing type, when we made our initial filing, we only had one option there. The radio button was defaulted to e-file only as it was our only option. Within a subsequent filing, you have two more options here. There is e-file and serve and service only. Service only will allow your filing to be sent to a selected service contact. It will not file your document with the court. It will send straight away to the person to the service contact you designate. The e-file and serve option, I'm going to go ahead and select that and select save. If I am complete with all of my filings, of course, I could add more if necessary. In the interest of time, we're going to move forward with just the one. And now we come to our service contacts page. And it's here where we're able to add our service contacts for e-service. And so you will find the individual that you wish to serve. I'm going to select add new contact. You'll see the service method is already defaulted to eServe. I'll select the associated party or no party association. And I will enter in all of the required information, including an email address. I have the option to save that contact to my firm's contact list by selecting the checkbox there. In North Carolina, we are not making use of that add to public list, so it's just going to be saving to your firm contact list and selecting save. And as you'll see, when we scroll back up, we have now elected for e-service for this individual. And I do realize I think I selected the CD, but the process is the same. And again, pencil icon to edit and trash can icon to delete. Yes, ma'am? No, ma'am. My recommendation would be to build your firm's contact list. Most likely, a lot of the individuals that you are serving are going to be repeated. It'll be likely the same, and I don't know how large your county is, but 50 or 100 or 500. And so you'll build up your firm's contact list over time. No, ma'am. Sorry.
And there who has not agreed to be served then?
They could challenge your service. I mean, if they've not agreed to be served. Yes, ma'am. The system will send it. Yes, it will send to whatever email address you designate. They'll receive. Have you all seen what it looks like?
No, I haven't actually done it.
I can show you an email. So here's what the email will look like. It'll tell them notification of service. It'll have their filing details, and under document details, it will have a link for the person that you've had served. That link will be active for 45 days. They'll select the link. It will automatically download a copy of the document to their device.
I'll get a copy of that. It did not actually go to them.
And when you said you get a copy, this is the copy they receive.
Oh, they get that?
They receive it. There's nothing that comes back to you. This goes to them. Yes, because that's how they. You.
I mean, if they said you didn't start, how would you say, well, yes, I did?
So let me. I'm gonna go back to the filing history and show you where you'll see it. Just one moment. Gonna.
And just in case the notice of service did not go through, there could be a failure, some kind of failure email that comes back to you saying.
What if their email address is wrong or something, or? Okay.
Let me see if I can get.
And I'm gonna go back to our envelope details so you can see what your service will look like. Here we go. So I've just gone back to our dashboard and back to our filing history. Gonna go to envelope details. And it's still in the status of submitting, so I was just gonna say, yeah.
I just wanted to do a undeliverable email and then you can show.
Okay.
It's not delivered.
Thank you. So if you were to e-serve an individual and that service was undeliverable, this is an example of an email you would receive. You'll see file and serve service undeliverable notification. So you would be notified if an email address that you
I
have
would like
used.
to clarify that we intentionally put incorrect email address. It says mm@test.com. Obviously, it's not a real email address. You will get this kind of notification comes back to you. But if it were an incorrect email address but valid email address, it will go to that email address. The service contact may not be using that, someone else may be using, but it will go to that. So it is a valid email, but maybe you had the name wrong, or instead of Hotmail, you had Yahoo or Gmail. It will go because the system doesn't know your intentions, right? So the service undeliverable email comes when it really cannot find a proper email to send.
And so you'll see here under my envelope details.
Email address.
Yes.
Have their consent to serve them via email?
According to the email has to be system on record. So on record, meaning they consent to do that. So
Where does the record read that they consent?
I think Amy is not here, but apparently, I think they sign up for some kind of, the civil procedures have documented the rules on.
Right now, what we do is sort of the old-fashioned way, but I want a specific and express consent.
Yeah, when in doubt, I think you don't have to rely, the e-filing is mandatory, no e-service is not mandatory, so you can always do it.
Not wanting to find more, but this one is here.
So it doesn't see anything that shows that you did it. It just shows you.
Right, so right now I'm within your filing history, so back on your dashboard, filing history, envelope details, and under service contact, you can see that we have one service contact currently with the status of not served. So if you are looking to see whether or not. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Rejected when I attempted to serve them using that email address because they had not completed whatever they needed to complete to be part of the e-file and serve system. So it's previously said that the system doesn't understand whether you're sending, what your intention is to send an email. They're just going to send the email to the professional.
And when you say rejected, your filings, your file and serve filing was rejected? Have you heard of this, Giovanni?
No,
I've not.
but this morning they said that, so what you're saying is, you go to the service contact page and you can't get past that page?
I tried to the email address, like I just like to do the test, and then tried to serve them, and I got a message that said that they had not completed.
You get the message when you click submit?
I mean,
When you're submitting the filing?
when I submitted it for e-serve, I got a message that said that that particular attorney had not signed up for e-serve. And I had to back that out of the system. I had to back out the email address in order to just keep it. I didn't have the opportunity to e-serve them because I put in their email address.
And you added the service contact as I did in this demonstration?
Do you have the envelope number? Okay, that's it. We are taking notes and we will try to investigate and try to have those answers. If you can give me your email address or this roster, I can reach out to Ms. Whittington here and she can forward this to you once we find out.
So that takes care of how you would check to see the status of that service contact. Certainly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And you're not required to serve through, you're required to file with file and serve. You're not required to serve with file and serve.
In terms of just which email address you're supposed to use?
Yes, ma'am. The one that's on file within North Carolina State Bar. All right. Our last two cards on our dashboard are bookmarks and templates. Bookmarks is if you have a case that you are filing into often and you want it handy on your screen for easy accessibility, you can designate and save it with a bookmark. Your templates were not very popular this morning, but I think they save a little bit of time. Templates are, I'll select view my templates. If you frequently file a notice of appearance, perhaps, or a motion to withdraw, a motion to continue, motions to modify, if any of your frequent filing documents, you can create a template which will allow you to save a little bit of time, but all of you are very busy and any time saved is a benefit. And so creating a template will allow you to not have to make your case information selection screens if you wanted to go ahead and if you know your motions to withdraw, of course, are going to have no fee associated. You could designate your payment account with that as a waiver so that you know each and every time you come into it, you're not having to go and designate the case information screen. Templates are not to save actual documents. That would be impossible because each filing that you make is going to be unique. Anytime you're filing the notice of appearance, you're not filing the same notice of appearance into the same case, so it's not going to have the same caption. So it's not for documents. It's actually just for system use, being able to bypass very quickly the case information screen. Of course, you'd select yourself as the attorney. You'd select, again, waiver account if it's something that doesn't have a fee associated with it. It will, not save you a ton of time, But if you are someone who files, you know, several motions to modify, notice of appearance, withdrawal, continuances, any of your frequent filings.
An example, what is created in a template? I work for an agency, so we regularly file and have multiple people who put the filings together. So I think templates would be helpful to us. But I've been very confused with what a template is or how to create it.
Okay, let's do one together. I'm gonna hit add template. I have the ability now to either designate it for use for either a new case or for an existing case. New might be my notice of appearance. Existing might be my motion to continue. Certainly you could have a notice of appearance in an existing, so you might create one for both. For now, let's just call this our test template. And then we're going to move forward and edit our details. So if I am a probate attorney, I already know my court location each and every time is going to be Clerk of Superior Court. I know I'm selecting probate, and if it's a notice of appearance, perhaps it would be a document filing, no further action. So I could go ahead and save all of those selections and be able to bypass the screen next time. Of course, when we get to parties, for your applicant, if known, you could enter it here. For our filings, I am, of course, don't even have the ability because again, that's going to be different based on your selection here. If there were service contacts that you wish to associate, which we wouldn't be for an initial, and then for our payment account, we know that that notice of appearance is going to be free each and every time. I'm going to select it as a waiver account, party responsible. I would have firm's name listed there. Attorney is Perry Mason. Go to our summary and save our template. So that next time,
the template is the streamlining to the process of the getting to.
Yes, that's exactly right. So it's not there. It would be impossible to have a document added to a template because your document's going to be different. Your caption for your cases for each motion to modify, it's going to be different each time. So yes, it's to save. That's right.
Or that you save process.
That's all it is it's just a time saver so that next time, whenever you're ready to file, you would come here to your templates and we've got our notice of appearance already saved here. We can come right here and say use template. And using that template already has my information filled in for me. Gonna breeze right past that screen. Of course, gonna add the details, the particular details like my party. That'll be different each and every time. So you'll have to enter that information each time. There's no way for the system to anticipate that. The same with your filing. But it does save your case information. Perhaps if you're doing a subsequent and you've got your service contact saved, maybe you've got a hot and heavy case going back and forth, you could save your service contacts on a subsequent filing. And then finally, your fees, if you are doing motions to continue, things like that, you could save it as a waiver account, but you do have the ability once you're back filing using that template to make those edits and changes.
So really, it's only a template for information that goes into e-file.
That's exactly right. It's just, that's, yep.
Not,
Yep, y'all have big dreams, but it's not quite that big. It's a time saver though. All right. So that takes us, yes, sir?
I know on the template if that requirement was for you, of course that would be different, right?
Right, it's going to be different each time, so you'll fill that information in. Your party information and your filing code may be different each time. All right.
Will you be able to, like you just did a template and you said Harney County, can you group them so that you got
You can name them. You can designate them. So if you want it to be able to at a glance know them by name, you could have your Harnett notice of appearance, your
Make it like a subfolder under a big folder.
no, sir. The best you can do is you can star your favorites so that they appear on this screen. Otherwise, you'll need to select the view my favorites and go into them to view your complete list. Yes, sir.
And on your computers, you would still have to ask for opening and have everything on the file. Works great.
So I think you're getting into filing codes and you're not going to be able to select filing codes. Now you can select your case information, Harnett Clerk of Superior Court, probate, full administration. But as far as, application for probate or proof of death or letters or oath, that kind of thing, no, sir, you'll make those selections each time you make your filing. Y'all want those 3 boxes clicked so bad. I'm sorry. I promise you we are taking that information about those agreements back. I promise you. At this time, there's not a way to default those 3 agreements, and I'm sorry. But we hear you, and I promise you that information is going back to leadership for consideration.
Yes, we are making notes of all the feedback that you're providing, and we will be taking this back at leadership level to have those decisions made. But we are not promising.
Oh yes, there are no promises. We promise to take it back to leadership. Yes. Were there?
Yes, ma'am. We've tried to see how to.
And I think I saw another.
We're committed to any kind of implementation. For any case that we've agreed to that, we have no PN coverage. Personally, we're, but so says our church. We agree to an indemnity clause. We are not covered. That is
So there's no more indemnity clause. It's out. The Louisiana one, yeah. But you.
So we can tell them.
We need something confirming.
Yes, ma'am. We
Absolutely.
know that we will be taking this.
Does anyone have any outstanding issues that they've been having trouble with? Anything that they would like troubleshooting? That's the conclusion of our presentation, our overview of File and Serve. I want to be certain we have enough time for you all to see the portal demonstration. Were there any outstanding File and Serve questions? Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question about speed. Is the speed issue that's being addressed, is it going to get better? I mean, it just takes so long to do this.
Speed is typically to do with servers, and I know that they've added more servers in hopes of increasing the speed time.
Takes me an hour and a half just to upload the initial packet for the set, because you type everything in, you scan, hit the button for the auto redact, and it just spins.
Now let's talk about auto redaction a little bit. So only AOC configured forms will auto redact, and I can tell you there's 111 of them. So it does not include every form that's available on AOC. They've not all been configured for auto redaction. The bulk of the forms that received the initial configuration for auto redaction were largely civil, and that's because those were those PII heavy forms. So other forms like estate forms just didn't contain quite as much PII. So it could be that you are attempting to auto redact a form that has not been configured for auto redaction.
That's not worth it.
Yes. I mean,
But I think you still have to hit the auto redact.
You don't have to.
To the edit redaction so that you can do it yourself.
You do. Auto redact activates the edit button. But again, those edits are for those AOC configured documents.
Is there a way that you can just go to edit redactions yourself and not go to the auto redaction?
There's
What?
And redact before you leave the scan.
Yeah.
Getting all the destinations, right? We're not everything out of it. Don't you want me to have one of those ready?
The question is, are there times in which you do need to file something with a social security number and that the clerk would have it, and how does that happen? Does that happen through the system, or do you just do that by fax?
So if you upload a form where there is a personally identifying information and you don't hit the redaction, auto redact, or don't apply the manual redaction, the clerk, we have given instructions to the clerk to make sure that the document security on that is such that it goes to Odyssey, but it's not available to the general public, until which time the clerk can apply redactions in the Odyssey system, the backend, and only then change the document security so that it is made available to the public on the redacted form. So the clerks have tools, but that does impose a lot of work on the clerk's end. So we recommend that you do your own redactions. And with the speeds, there are multiple factors. As if you were saying, it could be a Wi-Fi issue, it could be a server issue. Tyler has added some servers because of the slowness. We've not heard slowness complaints so much in other countries as much as what we've heard in Harnet. So we are having people take a look at that. We are having Tyler folks look at that as well. So it could be some firewalls within AOC's network or Tyler's network. There could be multiple reasons, but they're taking a look at it. We've noted slowness problems, so we're taking a look at that.
And a quick question on AOC forms.
Yes, sir.
Where you fill in forms, or you type in the forms and save them. Are there any forms now where you can electronically sign, just type in your name and a backslash signature, type the way we e-file, for example, Court of Appeals without a signature? Because when I did it before, I just had to print it out, I had to handwrite it and then scan it in. Is that something that we'll be able to do in the future with AOC forms?
So currently, the forms that are published in nccourts.gov serve all 100 counties, and not all 100 counties are online. And for that reason, they have not converted the forms into the signature portion of it, where you cannot this thing. But I think what I was told is they are working towards it. It's not at this time.
Okay.
Pretty sure I understand. So the only thing that the Auto Act is supposed to address are AOC forms. So when that is happening, the system is going through and looking for something that's on an AOC form.
That's right. Auto redaction will never work on a form that you've created yourself or filed.
Also, I had one come back the other day.
Little extra letters.
Part of a parcel ID number. It would look like a number here, a number here, a number here, 4 digits of the one in the middle. Then I'd like to ask Renee for some clarification. So, and I had told her this, I think, in an email. I've started going through and manually redacting bank account numbers and anything else I think that is on that list when we're putting our sales on the line. But what Atlas or Duncan or I'm not sure said, sometimes I think there's information beyond me. So I don't know what to do with
So
it.
now, they modify it, you scan those documents in and attach them, supporting documents for audit purposes, as a log file, we can't even change it. So,
And I was just about to speak about that. That's really useful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Fully alone, y'all.
That I realized that wasn't a hacker or a bad actor, but there was a problem with the Tyler technology aggregator, and it swept up information. That information was part of it. They published it. I mean, they didn't know that they had all that, but it was put out on the internet. And so, you know, and then here we are, we're identifying, and that's nerve-wracking.
There are multiple portions to the question. To the issue where you said there was extra characters being added of that nature. Shifting a bit to you about how to approach Tyler and make them aware of technical issues.
You know, honestly, me communicating with Tyler probably would not be effort. So I'm just gonna try this.
Yes, ma'am, that's one way of doing it. The other is we need to identify what forms, what is forms the extra redaction happens. So in some manner that needs to be recorded. So,
If you've got an example that you would email to us, and we can submit that.
It is.
yes,
No, but we'd
well,
still like
but-
to,
yeah,
we'd
but
still
we're
like to
trying
address it.
Yeah, we have to still address that. So the other way is to contact your clerk's office so that they can open a help desk ticket for us if it comes to our team over here. So stuff like that.
Helpful or informative feedback.
For the other issue,
I just wanted to address, I heard a mention about bank statements, and that goes back to, and Sir Bonnie mentioned it, that supporting documents for audit purposes or within a state's special proceedings has a special filing code for special proceedings, supporting documents for audit purposes, the state supporting documents for audit purposes, and then a document security that is a confidential document security type. So you can rest easy that if there is information like checks and bank statements, like they are within a confidential, meaning that no one on portal would be able to go into portal and pull up that information and look at someone's canceled checks.
so the information available to the public in portal has 3 levels of security. You have the document security itself. Obviously, there's a redaction. There's actually 4. The redaction is applied, and then there's the document security itself, and then there's the case level security. So, for example, any filings under juvenile cases are automatically confidential. There's the case level security.
Voluntary.
Yeah, involuntary commitments, things of that nature. And then there are all the documents that are attached as events. Events is like a log of all the attachments. And those events are either documentable or non-documentable. Documentable meaning they'll be published, non-documentable they won't be published. If they're not published, they will not see. So that is the 4 levels of security apart from the kind of access you have in portal. Are you an anonymous user, which is the general public? Do you have elevated access? All this Marjorie will be talking more to you when she discusses portal. But there is that kind of security at the portal level. Obviously, when you're e-filing, the clerks themselves will be reviewing all the incoming filings that you have, even though you incorrectly indicated a confidential filing as public. The clerk will be reviewing it and changing that document security to confidential before accepting it. So the appropriate document security will be applied in filings. So if there are guidances to the clerk's office, like if they have any doubt, they can put it as public portal or address it in Odyssey and how to set the document security in the proper manner.
And I feel like that's a good segue into portal, unless there are any burning file insert questions.
Could you show the support and links?
We've got 2 ways to get contact Tyler. You've got your contact for technical support here, and I just went right here to our question mark at the top. There is also support bot. I had an attorney and it must have been within our first class that was using support bot. If you see that yellow bubble on a page where you can, if you need assistance with the page or area, you can get additional support there as well. But again, under support, or if you are looking for additional information about the system, there is some state-specific information. So currently North Carolina is not yet on here, but soon we will be added to the list. We're able to come to this site and get North Carolina specific. You can get information about additional training, e-filing basics, and then of course learn more about the system. Scrolling down, you'll see the postings of any articles, and of course an FAQ. If there's nothing else, Marjorie, they would love to hear about Portal.
I thought I had slippery wheels on my chair.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is dress rehearsal round 2. Round 1 was earlier this morning. So my name is Marjorie. I'm an analyst at AOC, and one of my work streams is Portal. I lead Portal. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach than I did this morning. And and we could do several hour demo on each portlet, answer lots of questions. I'm just gonna open the floor up to what you want me to demo. If I can demo it here on the spot, I will, and we'll go from there. So this covers Smart Search, which is where my primary focus is. Search hearings, like an intermediate person because another team person leads that. Intermediate on judgment search, but that also includes anything about elevated access. So, yes.
Like a print, the whole, because you have to print out the package, take the share to sort the parties. It's like a print out the whole package, you have to print it.
It's individually, because each document lives in Portal. I mean, Portal is a window into Odyssey. And so everything of how you see it, 99% of that is controlled by Odyssey, and you're just getting a window into it. So documents are individual documents in Odyssey attached to an event, and so they have to be opened individually and printed.
Yeah, to get that, again, in 3 hours to get my count. It's crazy. But I just was wondering, if you showed how to together, call the office and told them they're calling something. But I was just wondering if it was way on the side.
There's not a sneaky way. And if there was, I would not be hiding it from you because I would be sharing it. I wish there was a different functionality for that.
And I think it's more for some of the real estate loans because.
Oh, no, we're not saying, I'm joking. We're no more real estate. I've been in meetings with you guys. Were you on the 1,000-person WebEx?
I want
Well, somebody was who wasn't muted. Do you know who that was? Okay, yeah. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
My question is, and maybe it's something that you can do with Portal, because when you do the smart search and you do a name, and let's just say you have one that has no matches. What we have traditionally done in VCAP is we do our party search or our state search or whatever search you want to do, and then we would print that out, and you would have your records to show that you have searched John Smith to whatever day, and you saw John Smith's name, and you see the day, and you have that printout. When you do this portal stuff, you can't see, if you, after you hit the search, and you have no names, it just says no matches to your search, and you don't have anything else that ties that you searched to that particular person. You just want to make sure that if like something happens, you want your records to show that, hey, I did this search. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
When you're doing this.
I should have anticipated by looking up the lady's name. I can't remember her name, but she's like the lead person that AOC has been meeting with. And they actually just did.
We went to law school together. One of our good friends, Elizabeth Harris.
That sounds familiar. I've met so many new people recently. But they actually had just a recent meeting. So I know that that very concern was addressed in the last working session that I was a part of, where Tyler was there as well, 2 representatives from Tyler with Brad, and I think Judge Heath was there for a while. And that I remember that topic. So I know that I just answered questions on that feedback, because I think their contact is Nikki at our office, and I think they're working on a response to all of the various questions, and that's
These things, so that when you search, you can see. I mean, I know Reggie's probably had the same issues. Whenever you come, you just don't have, you have no time.
So I don't have the answer on that, but I know that question has been asked, and in the communication back and forth, however that's officially being done, then that, whatever the response is to that. So that very topic has been asked. No, who has a question about elevated access? No, you can ask anything. Go ahead. I'm going to use you as an example. If somebody wanted to see something, I have you as an example.
Forward, our access is tied to whether somebody's name shows on the calendar. So if my name is on the calendar, then I have access. If the social worker's name is on the calendar, the social worker might have access. And it appears to be that portal is individual, e-file can be related to the firm. From the DSS perspective, we would like to have essentially a firm access. So right now, for the people who need to look at the documents, my paralegal, they're basically logging in as me. And that's probably in violation of a lot of county policies. I've been saying that publicly a lot so that I'll have some cover if they try to fire me for it. But
we're not recording anymore, right?
But it's perfectly fine. I've been very open about it internally. We would like to have some way, we understand that confidentiality is really important and that tying it to the calendar, and the workaround is to list every attorney we have on every case, to list a bunch of social workers, but then when you get, the new calendars are not as tight as the old generalized calendars, so if someone's listed, you start to get a really long list, and we couldn't do that ourselves, which means we would have to call Morgan over in the juvenile shop and say, hey, can you go through 300 cases? And right now they just don't have time. So if there was some way where Harnett County DSS, and it makes sense to me, so that this is something that makes sense to all the counties, and I had really talked to Wade. I talked a little bit to Johnson and Lee, where we could designate a certain number of people who could have elevated access, even if their name wasn't listed on the calendar. For example, when you first got me elevated access, that day I saw nothing, except for, I used to be a parent attorney, so I saw 40 to 50 cases because I was attorney of record, and because I was the only attorney for the last 10 years up until 6 months ago, no other attorney was representing us. It really wasn't very important for them to list me as the attorney of record. So now every week we come to court, and the clerk is just busting her butt trying to get my name listed on every case, and I'm getting more and more access, and it is a good thing. I think in the long run we're going to love it, but I'd love to have some way for us to be able to create access that's it's not directly tied to the calendar. That's kind of the ask.
You have done a great summary. The only part I would just rephrase a little bit is it's not actually tied to the access isn't tied to the calendar. The access ties back to in Odyssey, and this is where I'm going to show the example because I took a screenshot when I thought I was going to be able to demo this earlier. It's a change in concept where in the old world, pre-Odyssey, you walk in, whatever, and I know I don't know the legal terms, but when you're like, yes, whatever it is, you have to file that I'm the attorney of record. Now there's the additional technological piece that you might be the attorney of record on paper, but until the clerk puts you as attorney of record in the system, when we're talking about restricted cases, public cases, all day long, anybody can see them. So it's that subset of restricted cases. Until you are in the system as the attorney of record, you cannot see the case. And so I want to give you I redacted, you'll see my very fancy redaction. Let's see, here we go. You're going to see behind the curtain. There you go. There's Duncan. So the reference that we have out on the web of trying to help make the transition of the piece that the clerk has to do so that if you're registered because you represent a restricted case type, which at this time is juvenile cases, protective order cases, which is both the 50B and the NDROs, and SPCC, involuntary commitment. Those are the restricted case types that, based on feedback, attorneys are like, those are the ones we need access to. When you are the attorney of record, this is an Odyssey. When the clerk looks it up, you see this is my fancy redaction that I did because this is a juvenile case. You have to be, this is the case where actually I'm on the parties tab. The attorney, or like we were referencing, we were talking about DSS social workers, we're talking about, if this was a different case type, the JCC, and we have our GAL program volunteers. Any of these parties, it's not just attorneys, but anybody who is a party to the case, before they can get elevated access to see the case, they have to be a party on here. And this is the actions the clerk has to take. She has to go into Odyssey and add Duncan to, or Mr. McCormick, to the case. As we've started to get feedback, I have some recommendations that I would like to take to our executive management of understanding to what level are the attorneys not on here in the system, where then that's putting huge burden on the clerks. How do we get that caught up? Because until you're on that case as an active attorney, your elevated access will do you no good, which is why she's adding more, you see more. There were also some defects that were going on with the My Cases tab that I know were impacting, especially the first couple weeks. I'm still narrowing them down. I've got several small defects entered, but it has improved. But if you still have an example, please send it to me, because every example I get, I'm using to enter a defect of this is not functioning as designed. I mean, I know I'm running into some problems where I'm entering a defect where attorneys who, thousands of cases, that they are actually on record, it errors out. It can't pick them up. There's just too many. I think it's like a gateway error is what it's called, and it just times out. And so their My Cases tab doesn't populate at all. Even though they're assigned, I can go into Odyssey and see they're assigned to 1,000 cases. So that I do know. I'm sure that's a good hint. That's a good.
If you put it down, will it repopulate? So that if a person who had that many cases, if they narrow it down to the last year, so that it gets under that.
But when you're, yeah.
Would allow them to see.
It's not even populating to let them do that. It won't even populate them. That's the biggest pressing defect that I found right now, but that doesn't mean there aren't others. And so that is the hindrance. But that is what the clerk, I just want to make sure, yeah, that, oh yeah, the other part. So, because this is the key. This is what the clerk sees. This is Mr. McCormick's party record. And every party has an ID. And this is our key. And that's what connects and controls everything between Portal and Odyssey. All we're doing is a window into Odyssey. So, yes, question. Uh-huh.
We added
Have they been granted elevated access?
name as the social worker supervisor. You know, because what's going to happen with our social workers is never the same social worker for the whole case.
Correct.
They throw them low and throw them up and change every one of them, you know, so then you've got.
So she is listed as the social worker here. Yeah, if you give me the file number, yes. That's always the most helpful. Yes, Marjorie, there's only one of me at NC Courts. At Marjorie. Yep. So now you're concerned about, I know there have been tons of conversations on AOC's legal side of what statute permits of who has access to the case. Your solution of, yeah, my person is logging, I suspect that's what a lot of people are doing. Because our best intent is we believe we're in line with the statute of who actually, according to the statute, is permissible, which there can be interpretations of that statute. And so your concern and the burden and the hindrance that it's bringing, coming here gives me an opportunity to take those concerns back of, is this the final say of exactly how the statute is interpreted? There's been a lot of conversation about the social workers too. Lots of conversation and discussion about what does the statute say of how they get access, which may very well be in kind of conflict to the reality of how business is conducted. And that's the tension we're in right now with that.
I'm kind of, this is practice understanding we're moving slow, but being able to see the court file today, I had emailed back, if I was able to see an order that we didn't have a copy of, and that's couldn't be a great thing for us moving forward.
Yeah.
But I may try to put it in an email to you what we're thinking. I understand that y'all have to look at it.
You know, that would be amazing. Having the conversation is great, but putting it in a summary, because then it's not just me picking up the torch for a fight, because I'll pick up any fight. You give me a hill, my husband's like, you do not have to die on the hill. I'm like, but I do. I really do. So I would appreciate that. And I've taken some notes to refresh my memory, because Odyssey has like made my memory. Okay.
After the person pled guilty last month in Wake County. So right now it looks like I can look up the conviction, pled guilty in February. I'm seeing a very nice summary of everything in court, but I'm not actually able to pull up the judgment or the transcript of plea. Is that something that's eventually going to be available?
The judgment and
so the person, well, the actual documents in public records, like a criminal case. And so the person pled guilty, so he pled guilty, I think it was
I would have assumed they were already there. That's why I've got this perplexed look, and I don't play poker either, because you can see there's no poker face here. Please.
I know it used to be like cases that existed before every criminal record I I'm looking at through Corporal in Harnett County, unless things have been done since February 13th, I'm not seeing.
Okay, now,
these
okay,
are-
I
these
feel a
are
little
like-
better now, I can explain
these are
that.
like judgments that are
Yep.
pre-February 13th.
Yes, I have an answer for that.
Okay.
I hope it's kind of okay. So you are correct. The volume of documents that exist pre-Odyssey, 213 is the magic date. Once action started taking place in Odyssey, everything that's there, if it's public, it's got a security group to make it public. If it's attached to an event, you're going to see it on portal. If all the security rules say don't show on this portal, then you don't see it. We have thousands of documents pre-portal. The clerks were given guidelines on, hey, this is what you can do for pre-scanning. So there's this big range of what you can pre-scan, how to do it, attach the right security group, everything else. Each clerk made their own judgment based on their staff and resources and everything else on were they going to do any pre-scanning or not. Ultimately, anything that is pre-Odyssey, if there is a document that's supposed to be there, the only way that it will actually get there is for the clerk to manually scan it, go through the process of does anything need to be redacted, attach it to the appropriate event or create a new event, whichever it is, so that it is attached to the case and then it will be displayed. So it's manual.
My recollection is, it's been a long time since I did one. It used to be social security numbers on just about every arrest warrant, all those things.
Yes.
So there's a likelihood that if we need an actual copy of those judgments, is there a standardized way in Wade Johnson? I mean, here I can talk to our clerks. Is there a way when we go into portal and we see, well, those documents aren't there? Before we would send someone to the courthouse to make a paper copy. Is that what we're supposed to do, or is there a way just to contact that clerk and say, how do we get copies of the, and I don't necessarily, I know what they're going through in Harnett, that the workload on the clerks is not necessarily where I'm going to bother anybody right now. Is it the anticipation that at some point, I mean, you could go back 40 years. I wouldn't think people would necessarily try to stand that far back. Is there a standardized plan on how far back we go, or just say, start looking forward and everything else we can do?
It's a little bit of both. The point forward is Odyssey. Anything pre-Odyssey, there's a couple answers, and that's contacting the clerk to see, hey, how many cases are we talking about? What is your process? AOC has given broad guidance on all these documents, but ultimately it's the decision of each municipality, each clerk of, are we going to do it on demand, as in an attorney contacts us? How is that going to be organized and structured? There is no more global plan at this moment. I'm not part of any conversations that would that dictate anything to each individual clerk on how to handle pretty much all the documents that exist. So I would contact the clerk directly and taking all that into account. I know. I said take it on, but of what it is. Okay. I was not aware that you are not permitted to scan closed cases.
Water district and something like that, if we could add those old legacy cases that people want to see over and over, or a hot file, that we could get
I'm going to look into that because the direction from the very beginning of my understanding was that anything in the past would be on demand, whether that's an attorney or a public person saying, hey, there's this old case out here, there's a document, I don't want to come to the courthouse to get it, hopefully that asked nicely, but that it would be on demand, it'd be case by case situation, and that would be, implemented by the clerks. I was not aware that as the e-rules of record keeping evolved, that it turned into a prohibition. So I want to follow up on that so that I have an understanding of how we got there and why we got there, because I certainly don't want to give out wrong information, and that is news to me. So I'll be looking into that further to find out all the history of what is in that part about the prohibition of closed cases, because in 3 years it was never on the table in conversations I was part of that there would be a prohibition. It would be working with the clerk based on their resources. It would have to be imaged and redacted, and then following the standard rules of, is this a public document? Because if it's not a public document, it shouldn't be attached to a docketable event. But if it's a public document, scan it, redact it. It'd have to be a manual redaction more than likely, but redact it, attach it to the event, and then it's on the portal. That's what I've understood the process would be for 3 years. So I definitely need to get some clarification and understanding of this prohibition of closed cases. Yes.
I knew had probably 8 different charges against various counties. And she tried to use computers in the lobby area too, couldn't relate to that. She finally just said, I can't see anything. How are we supposed to look up faces on somebody if all we can use is whatever's in the world? Because we used to be able to go through the VCAT system and put somebody's name in, and we could search the entire state and everything. And now that's not happening.
It is the same information. Yeah. So portal is not standalone. Portal is simply a window into Odyssey, which now means it is the same. It looks different. It has different search features, but it's looking at the same data. It is the same data that was in VCAP. It's all presented different, but all the data, all the cases, whether it's VCAP, criminal, anything, they are in Odyssey. So I would love examples of that particular one. It's always like, what's that 80-20 rule? That, 80% is fine. But that's not when you've got the one that's in the 20% that's causing issues, that's the main priority. So the examples are the way we refine what we can, information on, okay, this is how you look for it. And so I'm very curious about that one of what their name was and why not only, if one person can't find it, a lot of times, it's this or this or that. Then if 2 people can't find it, why is that? Getting down to the root of it, of is there truly a conversion issue, or is it a mechanism about the search because of the name? And anything searching by name gets more complicated than just a file number. So I don't know if I'm wondering, Tina, on some of these things that we're taking back, like making lots of friends with my personal email. Might as well don't share it. Like Duncan said, my email is marjorie.m.morris. There's only one of me at NC Courts. So please send me that example or multiple examples of the name. And
Any general details you can share, like, I know this is Wake County, or I know this is general time frame. That I don't need specifics, but just, and what, what kind of charges you think they are, because that way, as I'm looking for it, I'll be looking on it for it from the Odyssey side to lay my eyes on it first, and then to try to figure out why was it not pulling up in Portal. Was it simply user, as in how you put it in, or is there actually some sort of bug or defect that's causing it not to display?
That's what I was gonna,
Yes.
ask, were you searching for another county or just part of it? Because that's what I was gonna ask.
I didn't ask the obvious.
No, I was gonna say,
Is it in
were
the
you
4
trying to search for
counties? Is it in
something
the
outside
pilot counties?
Wild? Because BCAT should still be there for the other 96 counties.
It, it wasn't disposed where it could have been expunged, could it? Okay. Yeah, please just, send me whatever details you have, and then I'll work on looking into it to give you a direct answer of what we figure out about it.
Issue running a statewide check. Whatever they were using, they could only get into the 4 counties. So we're in Harnett, so a good chunk of our criminal convictions are going to be in Harnett, Lee, Baker, Johnston, but they were told, yes, you can still, you need to do 2 searches, one for the 96 counties, one for the 4 counties. And they were told how to do it, and then somehow they ended up getting kicked back in. I'll check with them to see if that's still an issue. That was a week or 2 ago. Come back to me. The second one was, I was running a search on a girl, a woman who I knew her name, I knew she had pending charges, I knew they were in Harnett County, and I knew that she spelled her first name, or that her first name had ended up being spelled multiple different ways. And so when I used to look up a court date on the AOC site, just the pending court date site, I put her last name in, and then her first name's Kimberly, spelled 1,000 different ways after that B, and I would just put K-I-M-B, and it would pop up all the different spellings. So I popped that in the portal, and nothing was there, no convictions, nothing. When I put in K-I-M-B and then put an asterisk after it, it populated with all her pending charges and all the Kimberlys. So I took from that if I'm not spelling it precisely, then it may not be, it's not a natural language kind of search that either. And so I don't know if someone had mentioned the asterisk at a meeting a week or 2 ago.
It's the wild card.
And so if there are tips and tricks like that, I don't know that they may be in the frequently asked questions and all that sort of thing, but I know that tripped me up on someone, but I knew she existed, so I knew to keep trying. And I know with particularly criminal records, we get all kinds of spellings, and then when we get into Hispanic names, then it just goes all over the map.
Yes. You've hit on all the points that are very frustrating with, in essence, changing search engines. I mean, the rules that are coded for Portal on how the search engine works. And so if you do not use the wild card, it is looking for that exact match, whatever you have typed for a name, exact match. You only get variation if you use the wild card. So it's very easy until you learn. And I'm thinking, like, for next track, as I've been hearing some of the same common things of what do we need to emphasize to make the transition easier, it's going to be, how do you wildcard search? File number, it's pretty easy. As long as you've got all the characters and you haven't fat fingered it, that's pretty easy. But hearing from the field that that's not actually the most common type of search, you're looking broader. We have updated what we call the overview guide, right at Go Live. It had to come out from the Realty Board when we were working with them on giving some hints and guidance on all the different variations of how the wildcard can work. There are some screenshots in there where we gave some examples. We're continuing to build that out, just like I think when Tiffany shared the indexing. There's also hints, and when I say hints, actual examples of, okay, if this is the person's name, these are the various ways that you can search by it. So the search logic is not advanced like you would expect Google or Amazon. So it is an old school, you put in the name, that comma is there, it's looking for the exact match unless you use the wild card. And so there is a steep learning curve on transitioning to that. Yep. Yep. Okay, we'll give it a second while it loads, and then it'll jump down to portal. So, sure.
And again, it's dealing with, touching a little bit on what Duncan said, but when we're doing real estate closings, I put my hand with Reggie, because I know he does a lot as well. We may have a name, John Smith, and we're searching John Smith, and he's got 4 different IRS names. And we know John Smith may have moved around, so we don't know if the addresses on these IRS liens are accurate. We've always been able to go to the courthouse and look at the IRS lien and look at the social security number on there, and then I can verify the social security number with what I had in my file, with what's in the courthouse, to know if that John Smith that owns the property that I'm doing the real estate closing for is the John Smith that's got the IRS lien. Significant issue. Significant issue. Same thing with judgments. How are we going to be able to verify? Are we going to have access to be able to see the socials or anything like that for personal information as a real estate attorney to be able to verify that this John Smith is not that John Smith?
That was asked in the first session. It's asked a lot, not just by attorneys, but from different government agencies that have relied in the past on social security number when it's captured as a form of validation. Portal does not have the functionality. It's purposely designed not to display the SSN.
What do we do?
How are we on the record at that point?
My recommendation that I gave the first group, and I need to make sure,
They'll tell us the truth.
is that the system on this particular topic cannot change. When the system can't change, that means the business practice has to change. So I'm not sure, as in what information you use to validate that is your person. Is that date of birth, driver's license number, that, pardon me? Yeah. And you're right, currently, yes, driver's license is PII. The restricted case, the attorneys with access to restricted cases can view the driver's license, but it sounds like these are all public cases, and so it would be by date of birth if that is captured, because there is a filter that you can verify when you've got a list of records.
And the other thing about that is not only for us and the work that we're doing, because that is a really, really big deal. But it also has implications, obviously, for the client, and it has implications for someone who may have the same name, but is not John Smith. A real big issue that I mean, there needs to be some way to address that. I don't know what that would be.
I don't either. Yeah. Yeah, so I will definitely take that back. I've taken some notes because I got to hear it in the first session. And now I've got some additional details of further understanding of, because what we have is we have, I don't even know what to call it, a juggernaut between, we've got what the system can do versus what the reality is of the business. And then you're pulling in IRS, which nobody tells them what to do. They do whatever they want. So you're limited based on that, and the system's limited on how it was designed. And we've got this big gaping valley in between, in essence. So,
Still can't tie that link to that person unless we know what the social media.
okay.
At the,
I didn't hear the question.
Just have like learning from purposes and I think how that they can use, that we as attorneys would have access to. Like they would take the social security number for a client and ask if they match. Because you wouldn't be disclosing the number of jobs where you say, hey. That would be enough for us to verify that it was the same number that's when.
That's gonna be the exact, that's the point related to that is.
You all would do that. Well, there's your answer. You get it in with your search with the client, and they will verify that matches with the tax. They can't give you what the tax man has to search with you, but they can verify that it's the same number.
There's a big difference though. When you call Harlan County and ask them to do that, and you call up to the Blair Williams office up in Raleigh, they're not gonna do that.
And a tremendously manual process. Yeah, I mean, it's a workaround. It's a great workaround, but I would agree that it's not a permanent solution. Absolutely. Yeah.
our first constantly, yes, every time we go.
I don't disagree. Yes.
How the clerks in a way. So, as you said before, the portal is the window into Odyssey. And early on, I had attorneys, paralegals on people call me and say, oh, I can't search for this or get you too many results. I tell them, hey, use advanced search. Make sure you're going down there and searching all that type
Advanced filtering.
Advanced filtering.
There's a difference. So.
And the case pulled up here, and I kind of wanted to look at it, and I've seen other cases before. I've used Portal just so I can see what things look like, and I'm seeing the information it brings up. It brought up all the VCAP events, it brought up the names tied to that, it has the decedent name, it has the beneficiary name, it has the addresses. Obviously, we inputted that data into VCAP, and the conversion just cracked it.
Oh, I sure do wish it was that simple, but you are correct. I worked on conversion, so that's why.
They got the information,
Yep.
and now Portal is just shining light on that.
Yes.
Looking into that advanced filtering, if memory serves me correct, that there was like date of birth, there was, is it closed, is it open, is it all these type of things? Well, as the attorneys have stated before, if looking at this here, if Portal will only show that, I guess what I'm trying to say is that when I'm in Odyssey and I create a new party, I have all this information that I can input. I have name, I have address, driver's license, date of birth, date of death, social security number. I can put all that information. But Portal will only look at the name and address, it seems like. Unless it has an event and a paper tied to it, you're not going to see this person's other information.
Not as a public user.
Right. So is there a possibility then to go into that advanced filtering to add more information like a social that they can search by? Obviously, it's not going to show up here that if I type in John Smith and that's it, and I go and I click on a random case on John Smith, I'm not going to see his, if I click on a random case, I'm not going to see his social. I'm just going to see that this case has John Smith to it. But if I'm on the outside and I'm searching a case and I put in search for John Smith and this is the social, well now, obviously I have told the system I know John Smith's social. So I want to see John Smith cases that could have this social inputted under his name, but I guess thinking about it out loud or talking about it out loud, I don't know if that would work because not all clerks are probably going to input that social initially. It just might be on some paperwork somewhere. And I don't know if they're going to be inputting that information when they're making the new case, that they get something in when they're creating a party.
But you've got a really good point, Tyler, because anytime a tax link comes in, that's going to have the social.
It's going to have it on the paper, but is the clerk then putting that social when they create the
I
party?
don't know, but maybe going forward, I think that's a good question as to whether that can be put in somehow, unless if Will's doing a title search or I'm doing it, we have the social and can search through that, and so only things that, only records relating to that individual are going to come up, or it's going to say no. Tyler's right, I mean, then you have it, you can identify, I've got this information, so let me use it to see if I've got, if there's anything that relates to that specific individual.
And there's a lot of different points and questions in there, so if I miss one, please circle back around. Predominantly, I know it is criminal cases that the social is captured and entered. There are tons of SSNs in Odyssey now.
And other ones against their property too, where they have a judgment on. So,
And I'm
permitting those two, if it's a judgment.
I'm from the criminal side, so I know a little bit more about that data. I'm not knowledgeable. I'd have to find out from the civil side and liens related, because they get that. Was that inputted in to VCAP in the past? Are they doing that now? Those would be questions to clarify. But for the SSN, regardless of whether it's in Odyssey, the functionality does not exist. And I have asked repeatedly, for 3 years, as I've been working on this project, to make sure we have the concrete answer all the way to the executive level. There is no functionality change that can come with our existing portal that will permit filtering of SSN. It's not capable.
I know you give us SSI, I mean, social services, those folks get elevated access. Is there a way to give lawyers elevated access so that we can see this stuff?
There are, and I'm choosing my words carefully because I like to share more information and I don't want to get in trouble by my bosses of what I can share. So I'm going to be specific and be careful, but to share what I know. There have been conversations at the executive management level that have been going on for the past couple of weeks of finding a solution to meet the needs of, and I don't mean all the other attorneys, the non-restricted cases. That when we started with pilot, we started with the attorneys who represented restricted cases, that the only way you can see them is elevated access. And now after this is starting week 4, we have feedback for 4 weeks, going into our 4th week, of all the other attorneys, what they're experiencing by trying to work as public users. The same feedback that I'm getting from you guys is what we've been hearing for weeks. And so there are conversations and there's several plans that have been proposed of elevated access for non-restricted cases, which would give you the view capability, if you are the attorney of record, to the date of birth, if there's a SID, driver's license. Oh, that's right. For on these ones, yeah, I'm sorry. I think that is, like I said, there's several plans going on, and that is one of them too. So we got the traditional, they're the attorney of record, then versus kind of like, I've heard the plans that, in a bucket criminal versus civil. There's so many plans, it's a little confusing as they're working it out. So that's about all I can say is that, yes, your concerns have been heard.
Government can let you go through a process that you can get onto a plane without going through the TSA.
We could get that if we had the federal dollars, I bet.
I kind of looked back here and just to see all the different options for that advanced filtering. And of course, it has the location, smart search cases, party name, business name, nickname, sounds like. And it specifically has filter by date of birth, from and to, filter by gender, ethnicity, FBI number, SO number, booking number, case type status, date file, and stuff like that. So obviously, I haven't went into portal and picked up like a criminal case. So I don't know if I pick up a criminal case that it will list the name, gender, ethnicity. I don't know if it would do that.
Gender and ethnicity are public.
So I don't think we have anybody here that is on the software team for this. Yeah. So what it sounds like to me, nothing against here, and I have this kind of same idea or same thought when the clerks were at training over the summer, was that it's a software issue, the people that are making it. If date of birth is not on a criminal search in portal, so that tells me the window that portal is looking into Odyssey is this big, but it can search for information around it. So that tells me that it can search by social if it's in there. They just don't want to implement it.
Yes and no. There's points of what you're making that are true. The portal is a product that has a little bit of configuration. So it's like 90, maybe 95%, it is what we get off the shelf because the state has chosen to purchase this almost like an add-on that this complements Odyssey. At the current, from the beginning of the contract being signed, it was told to us that there are no enhancements. So that's where it's like, yes, technically, if this was a product that Tyler was continuing to enhance, the state could go with, we'd like to do A, B, C, and D, and Tyler would come back and say, that's going to cost this many dollars, and the state would decide. But for portal, there are no enhancements. Does that help some? Not with the problem, but understanding.
It doesn't help, but I see why it is the way it is.
Yes. Yeah. I know it doesn't help with the actual problem, but of understanding.
It's not against anybody here. It's different between. I know you guys. This is what you're given. This is how you have to present it. So, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I would just like to put in a plug for as all of these conversations are going on, which you've described, which is great. That they actively include some attorneys, clerks, whomever, that do the work day to day. Don't go talk to people and then come back and say, oh, we can. I mean, it's the people that do this and that are living with the consequences or living with the restrictions. I really think that could be so beneficial. And if nothing else, maybe it would help people who don't do this work understand what the needs are. Some of them that have not been considered. I mean, it is a little bit mind-boggling to hear that Tyler said there are no enhancements. The state said to y'all there are no enhancements. And that, honestly, quite honestly, unfortunately confirms, sort of this basic sense I had about who was looking after us in terms of the
Well,
process.
that's one piece of the product that whenever the conversations took place of, yes, you're purchasing this product, but there are no further enhancements. I can't share any more about it than that. That's just Portal. Every piece we have is totally independent, and we bought it as a package, and that was what was available at the time that the contract was signed, was Portal. I know.
Elevated access. Knowledge work and message work, that's really, really a concern. So I really put in a big budget, ask them to really think about bringing in people who do this, to have, who are actually out there doing it every day.
Well, let's just think.
Return to sender.
I will say that they can't, right, it's probably in the United States. Oh, no, it's just getting,
Are there other specific questions, general questions, something you'd like to see?
Because I've had a lot of attorneys and title searchers and paralegals having trouble searching for judgments. Can we just do a quick demonstration on searching for judgments?
Yeah, yes. I'll wait for the link to pull up, and then we were answering questions. We have numerous guides and assistance of we tried to anticipate questions and hurdles that people would have. We did not realize the hurdles that we would experience based on name search, particularly for title searchers. Not saying they're the only ones, but they're the ones I'm been engaged with the most since we went live. And so on the main eCourts portal, page, we have guides. You can start with the overview guide that gives you a little bit of a picture of each portlet. There are hints in there. That was designed so that if we didn't have a moment to do any other resource, because we had to design all of these ourselves, we'd at least have something. But then as time permitted and resources permitted, then we have created our advanced user guide. We're getting into nitty gritty. Like if you're doing a case type filter and you want to use disposition, well, you have to know what disposition goes with what case type. So we have a crosswalk in there so that you know these two things go together. And then, so we've just continued to update things. And refine our processes. We refined our process for elevated access of how do we approve attorneys for elevated access. We realized when the first requests were coming in, it was not working really well. And so we went back to the drawing board of how do we identify, once an attorney wants elevated access, how do we identify them so that we can grant that elevated access? We did the same overhaul with what used to be called LEOs. We realized that that also included any active e-warrant user. And so when we can adapt our process that fits better with the business need, we're doing that simultaneously with supporting Odyssey. And so your question of judgments, there is a portal judgment search video that was created by our SMEs, but I am going to, and so that's one of our resources here. There are several key enhancements that are going to take place for judgment. One of them being there is no wildcard search right now in judgment. I think that's one of the top 3 enhancements that they're making on judgment, is to improve so that there is a wildcard search and how broad it is of being able to use it. I think that's top 1 of 3. The one I know for certain is for and against.
judgment search is an all party search in the.
Yes, that is what it was intended. It was custom designed for North Carolina. That is intended to replace what was in, yes, you're correct. And so we definitely do have some bugs in it still. And the for and against, that's a huge one that is causing tremendous issues with the results that are returned of making it non-user friendly when they return. Those two, and I can't remember the third one off the top of my head, as in when we bullet pointed after meeting with all the, the realty board and everything else of what were going to be the top priorities. I'm not the SME for the judgment portlet. I do not have an estimated time of when those are going to go in. We learn something new every day. And so there are definitely some huge barriers to work around on judgment search right now, besides it just pulling up. I thought I would have better, being on my MiFi, I thought I'd have better access, but apparently a Verizon connection may not be the best in Harnett. Or maybe it's just my MiFi, I don't know. Pardon me? No, it's still spinning. No, oh yeah. Maybe I should go off of my MiFi and see if the county Wi-Fi works better. See, I'm on my secret, the private one, and I did not expect it to be functioning like this slow. I mean, I thought when I was doing some smart search stuff in the first time that was slow. This. Correct. There are two separate things. Judgment search is specifically civil judgments. Yes. No, even internally, we have to say that, it's a new way of thinking. And so judgment is strictly civil judgment. And then smart search is everything that's public, which includes civil judgment.
While you're doing that, what is the typical time frame of when a person is charged? The police, they get a citation or whatever, and it comes up in the search.
It is when the clerk, I'm assuming, I don't know all the processes of how the clerk works, but I'm assuming it's like, that case already is created. When it is saved, when that case is created, it's practically real time. And when I say practically, it's not overnight. There's no overnight batch. If it is updated, usually, you might need to refresh if your cache has been there for 20 minutes, but no, it's real time that everything displays that is public. Or any updates, then I will be questioning on the back end what is wrong. Is there something, is the case actually in the system in Odyssey? I would want to look into that because no, there is no delay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in a perfect world, it should be immediate. As soon as, like, if an officer charges someone with a citation in Brazos,
yeah.
In a perfect world, as soon as they transmit it, it should be important. In a perfect world.
And that's something that, especially in these early days, that if you're expecting to see a case there and it's a public case, you're not seeing it, I would first, don't shoot me, ask the clerk, but even calling the help desk, we have an Avanti team for portal search, which covers any kind of topics of smart search, hearing search, all the three portlets. Financial has its own, payments has its own, but that way, if you're like, what, I'm looking for this case, whether you know the file number or just the name and the county, and then that ticket goes to my team, and one of us picks it up to investigate, to confirm, is it in Odyssey? Is it displaying, and to test it to see what's going on. And you can also submit those questions like that, even though it's not a help desk ticket, ecourts@nccourts.org.
Well, courts are, it used to be there quicker than it is now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like, and up until this point, yeah, every person that, every ticket that I've investigated where it's like the case isn't there, I've been able to trace it back to a legitimate reason of either why it's not there or something that was configured wrong that needs to be changed, but the data exists. And we've been able to get to a root cause of why can't you see it on the public portal like it's expected. Because we've had a lot of instances of it's just not converted, it's not converted. That has not proven true yet. And hopefully it never will, because that would not be good. But there's some other root cause of why it's not visible. Let me log off of my VPN and see. Yes, well, while logging off, you can, please, go ahead. Yes.
Going forward, is it going to be giving us the wrong, basically become the right amount, or? I had explained to my client at closing that even though I was telling them one number, the paperwork they had in hand was the wrong number, that I was right, and that the printout from the report was wrong, which whenever like I let them look with the client. And then we went to the clerks to pay it. I called for payoff for the day they closed, they calculated up the number. We sent a check down there with the number, they tell us that there's no way to get a future payoff date. They can only do it day by day, so they said that they lied on the phone. Then they said the number we had in hand was wrong, came back to you for it, to write the check. After Raleigh, same thing. They played $1, so
Oh, no. Now I wouldn't, yeah, poor Tyler. My husband, after 3 years, just this week said, I just realized Tyler's not a person. He goes, I've been thinking for 3 years, boy, this Tyler treats you poorly when you're complaining. I know. One of our coworkers, everybody thought that he was Tyler. No. So there's a whole bunch wrapped up in there, and it can be very easily all twisted up. That is definitely not something that's all Tyler's fault. There might be other things, but not that. The civil judgment is at that date and time. It is that specific date of when that judgment was ordered. And this is how, I don't know if they're doing an enhancement on this or not, so I don't want to speak to that. But I know I've been in the conversations with the people who lead the judgment, Portlet. Because it is a specific date and time, that's why whatever you see in Portal, that is what is reflected officially in the court record until the clerk is contacted, and there's this green button, I can visualize it, where in essence they update it. Oh, that judgment was issued 5 years ago. That was the judgment on that date and time only. It's stagnant until the clerk or someone calls to say, okay, what do they owe to pay the judgment today? Once the clerk takes that action to update that information does go to Portal. It is displayed, but the drawback is if you don't know to call, and we have it in our FAQs and everything, but if you don't know to go to the FAQs and stuff like that, you look at that and you're like, oh, okay, here it is. You go to the courthouse, and it's not. Yeah.
I asked if they gave me a payoff for calculating the day closed, which they gave me from Wayne County on the phone. And then when we sent the check down there, they said it was the wrong amount, and they didn't.
I actually do believe that part is true. I was going to see if anybody else knew that Odyssey cannot do future payoff. It is only that date. I'm like having a vague recollection that might actually be true. Yeah, I just stepped past my level of knowledge. So Yeah, so it makes it, Michael and Christy are,
If it's separate from legal, I think that's.
that's true too. Yeah, let me find out and see what they have published. I haven't watched their video in the past couple weeks of, do they address this in searching on the judgment? I know we have it in our FAQ of calling up, but I don't know if of what that looks like, and that once it is updated, it will reflect on portal to show you so that you have the updated version. The piece that I'm missing knowledge of is that only for that day? And if you need the future date, which makes sense, how is that done? I don't know that off the top of my head. So that is definite information that we either need to know where it's at to point people in that direction, or we need to publish that information so that it's clear, because that would be a terrible situation and terribly frustrating of going through all of that. You think you're doing the right thing and following the steps, and then it turns out you're not, and then you're not given a final solution. You're just, oh, it's Tyler's fault. Nobody wins in that. So yeah, take that back for getting more clarity on that piece of how it works and the payoff amount and how much details, because I know the video I think is their main resource, but I'm not 100% sure on what other resources they may have on the judgment portlet. So what would you like me? Going off of my MiFi, it might have been the VPN I was on, thought I was doing the right thing, pulled right up. What would you like me to search on the judgments page? I don't know the other guy's name, but Tyler, isn't the guy beside you the one who wanted me to search judgment? Okay.
Just because I get that question a lot. People are asking, how can you search judgments? I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to figure it out too.
Okay. Oh yeah. Thanks. Poor John. So again, one of our limitations, that's the other one. Our limitation right now, we do not have a wildcard search. That is in one of the top pieces to be enhanced. The other is no, I'm not saying forget. This checkbox will become defaulted so that you don't have to check it because you want inactive and satisfied judgments. That was one of the top business rules that was given to us. So when you put in John Smith, yes, you get 1,622 results. And that's heightened by the fact that we have the defect that will be for and against. So that's limiting because it's not clear when you get that back, those 1,600 of, is this the for or is this against? And then that means you have to look into more. What you can leverage at this time until the enhancements / defects are fixed is knowing it's really location. But I may not understand your business enough. Maybe you are looking for all locations.
It's really hard. Judgment. It don't sound like it flows to get back to the system.
Would you repeat that?
Very well get back.
Back from what?
Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, like when I click into one? Well, that's ugly. Why is that like over that?
Go back. You can't hit just the back.
I know at one point that did not work because when you went back, you started all over again. Maybe. Because strange.
I've noticed that it opens up separate tabs. That's what I've noticed with the portal. Like when I go in, because I was like, why?
This is judgment. Nope, this is judgment, not portal.
I'm gonna go back to the portal.
Yeah, and if they did that, I would take that as a nice little win because I remember that was so frustrating. And you're not, anybody who does software development, they always tell us, don't hit the back button. And now you got to go contrary to what we've been told for 20 years because that is the only way to go back. But maybe, just maybe. Refine takes you back too, but why the heck that button is in the middle of the screen like that is horrific, but refine takes you back and does not erase it. So at least maybe that has been fixed. Yeah, I remember, I saw that with my own eyes because the first time it happened, I was just like, oh, that's horrible. That's untenable. So maybe cautiously optimistic that from a, I don't know if it's technically the infrastructure, I don't know, I'm not an actual, but that has been resolved. I would say that if that recurs again, submit a help desk ticket. When I'm trying to right click on the view judgment button.
That could be dependent on your browser.
Yeah, that is true too, yeah. Is there something else you'd like me to show on here? At least something went well. You'd go that far to say you're happy? Well, then that's wonderful. That will be a great, like I said, depends on who you ask, but whether it's a defect or an enhancement. Regardless, that is being fixed. Yeah. Yep, I agree. Yeah. I don't have an estimated time. All of that information is kept very close to the sleeve, people way above me on when fixes are coming out and when they're being deployed. But I can confidently say that those top three are part of the judgment, fixing it so that it functions as intended, as North Carolina intended for it to function when we designed it. Pardon me? Do you not like me? You had to bring up Mecklenburg. I mean, haven't I been nice? Where I am in the hierarchy of things. I think we should all have some sort of, yeah. No, we want the raise. I don't want the promotion up any higher than where I am. I'm happy I like the job I have. So no, we know exactly what you know about Mecklenburg. Those conversations are also, if there's any conversations, whatever is going on at the executive level is above me.
I have been told that.
Almost like mobilizing.
Our Mecklenburg personnel has been on site either in Wade or some areas. I know they've been helping some areas.
I think I did hear that too.
I know there have been other counties that have observed, so other people have come on site.
Yes, in Johnston County. Love has been spread. You had me for 4 weeks.
To be pilot, but who raised their hand? Someone raised their hand.
I think that part of was just because they knew the quality of the clerk's office.
There is no reason not to disbelieve that, because I tell you what, the quality of the clerk's office, in my humble opinion, you can't measure that in the big scheme of all of this, of how significant and important it is.
The quality of the clerk's office and the attitude that we are public servants. And I think that seals their fate.
there gonna be some hugging.
Recognize the Herculean efforts that this office has put in and the unbelievable work that has been done. And really is very sorry for everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today. And that's, yeah, and there, I can tell you, none of these forms are inclusive. So that's really not. And if you do, then it's creating those errors within the form because they're not configured for that.
But it's good to, that you reported it because that's what I am going, trying to improve it. And as we said, this is a highly. Yeah. But we appreciate it.
That's trying to find it in the library. That's why I went down and there's a better one. Okay. And they'll probably just. Your name? Whatever time I work from home. I don't think I can.
He was involved in the constant case, had to get it all that life. Going on, all we did was go to phone people once, talk to family once, I learned it here, you know, Bill was $120. I had $2.2 for hours for every phone call she made, not leaving a voicemail, but picking up the phone, dialing it, waiting for it to ring. So I have been way undercharging on my charge. Will not leave the voicemail, but dial on the phone, wait for it to ring. On her bill sheet, it said, family member, could not leave voicemail, 0.2, and bill $20. She took wages in the phone calls. Yeah, she done shit. Point, no, 0.2. So, she's done it for 12 minutes. So there was. That's what she said.